when I hear something scary. Have you ever heard the creepypasta called My Brother Died at Birth and My Parents Still Made Me Share a Room with Him? No? Me neither. Want to hear it? This story does have themes of infant unalive and adult unalive, so if that makes you really uncomfortable, scroll away. I haven't been home in a really long time. I left for college as soon as I could the second I turned 18. I've wanted to come back, but every time I tried or came close, I always chickened out, making excuses. I almost came back home when I found out my dad had a stroke, but once again, I couldn't do it. That's until I got a call from the hospital just the other night after work. They told me my mom had passed on the way there, from a blood clot that went to her heart, and that someone would have to figure out what to do with the house. The drive home felt longer than I remembered, and as I pulled into the driveway, I had the urge to peel out and never look back. But as much as I hate this house, I can't just leave it. I push open the car door, walking up the steps of the front porch, and push open the front door with a low creak. The house was dark, but clean, as if it had just recently been dusted, and I imagine it had, by my mother. With my father and my mother gone, the house was extremely quiet and still. At least, mostly. I walked up the steps to the second floor where my old bedroom was, and slowly, stepping through the doorframe, looked inside. My bed was neatly made with all my things in place, and next to it was an empty crib. Jamie's crib. When I was born, I was supposed to be born with a brother. My parents had already picked out both our names, both our cribs, and had a room all decorated. One side for me, and one side for Jamie. But when we were born, I came out all red-faced and screaming, and my brother came out quiet. He had passed away, tangled up in the umbilical cord. It didn't take me long, as I gained consciousness of the world and understanding to know that something was wrong with my family. As I got older and grew out of my crib, Jamie's crib stayed. And as I grew old enough to understand speech, Jamie's name was one of the first on my lips. Say goodnight to your brother, Tom, my mom used to say every night before bed, gesturing to Jamie's empty crib. At first, I'd go along with it. Good night, Jamie, I'd say, making my mother smile gently, before closing the door and engulfing the room in darkness. I thought maybe my mom was playing a game, or it was her way of making me feel better about the loss of my brother. But as I got older, I realized it wasn't that at all. She began forming rules. Don't cross the rug over to Jamie's side. He doesn't like it when you disturb his things. Don't play with Jamie's toys. If you move them, put them back exactly how you left them, Tom. And lastly, don't go into the hallway closet. When I broke these rules, the house would change. When I was growing up, I was too short to reach the key that hung over the hallway closet. But as I got older, I also got taller. Once I reached a height tall enough, I waited patiently for the perfect day. My mom and dad were downstairs arguing in the kitchen, too busy to hear anything I was doing upstairs. So I crept out of my room, standing on my tippy toes, and grabbed the key before pressing it into the doorknob and turning it. The door popped open with a soft squeak, and I peered inside, disappointed in what I found. Boxes in the corner, old baby clothes in stacks, and coats hanging on the coat rack. I sigh, about to shut the door, but pause when I see something peeking out from one of the coats. I reach in, pulling out a blue baby book that's obviously my mom's, and I open it. Her handwriting is cursive and neat as she writes about Jamie and I. Tom and Jamie were just born, but they're already so closely bonded. Jamie likes when Tom sings. I'm so proud of my boys. But then the journal entries changed. He won't eat unless Tom's in the room. He cries for hours when Tom leaves, and only sleeps when Tom is near. And as the entries changed, so did the handwriting. It turned crooked and rushed, the ink smudged in odd places. The night terrors are back. I hear him at the door. I think Jamie blames me. The entries stop after that. I stand there for a long time, reading those words over and over, so long that darkness settles over the hallway, and the argument that had been happening had long since stopped. I realize the time. Stuffing the notebook back in the coat and shutting the door, locking it, I place the key back on its hook and then walk back to the bedroom. I've started sleeping with my back to Jamie's crib, not wanting him to make a surprise appearance. Lately, the whispering has been getting worse. I'll hear him talking in hushed tones on the other side of the room, or walking around. Sometimes his fire truck will start in the dead of night, as if he's playing. Other times I'll wake up with my blanket pulled off me, laying neatly on the floor. Jamie's stuffed animals also tend to move as well. One morning they can be by the window, and the next tucked into the covers of his crib. I prefer not to look. I toss and turn in my bed, unable to sleep, and my eyes fall on his empty crib. I know I shouldn't. I don't even know why I have the urge, but before I know it, I'm moving. Okay, here's my thing. If your unalived brother is a ghost in your house doing all of this stuff that I literally just named, why would you get up and go and decide to lay in his crib for literally no reason? After you know you should not even be on his side of the room using his stuff, whatever, and you just broke a rule. What is wrong? I know he's like probably 7 in this, but like I feel like 7-year-olds are smarter than that. Like, you know? I walked to the crib looking at its faded mattresses. Mattresses? Multiple? Mattresses? Multiple. Multiple mattresses. The mattresses have multiplied. What are you talking about right now? I walked to the crib, looking at its faded mattress and the old stuffed toys before climbing up into it and laying on my back, looking up at the ceiling. I don't know why I did this. Curiosity, maybe? Something else? I don't know. But eventually, I do fall asleep. I wake up to something jutting painfully in my back and groggily open my eyes, realizing I'm no longer in my room. I jolt up, cloth hitting my face as it presses into the familiar texture of a coat. I look behind me and see the boxes stacked with old baby clothes. I try the doorknob. It's locked. I start to panic, slamming my shoulder into the door, trying to get the latch to unlatch on the outside of the door. After a few good shoves, the door bursts open. The noise has my mom running from her room. She looks at me, kneeling on the floor, the neatly stacked baby clothes now strewn behind me. She looks at me silently for a long time, before speaking in a quiet and distant tone. You disrespected his space. Then with that, she turns, walking back into her bedroom. As an adult, that memory has an odd discomfort coursing through me just at the idea of it. I turn away from my bedroom and walk down the hallway to that very closet, now tall enough to easily grab the key. I unlock the door, pushing it open and seeing everything is relatively the same, except the box that had folded baby clothes on them now has a tape with the word bedtime written on it. He's gonna watch the tape. I pick it up, walking back into my old bedroom where the tape player that likely hasn't been used in years is, and I pop it in. The machine groans as it comes to life, but I watch as my mom pops up on the screen, reading the book, The Velveteen Rabbit, in a playful, almost musical manner, as if she was reading it to a child. I watch the tape with a faint smile on my lips, until another voice speaks up, higher pitched and out of frame. Is it real if it hurts? I want to know what it tastes like. Tell the rabbit to leave. My mom didn't pause her reading, almost as if she was ignoring him until she finished. When she did finish the tape, she went silent for a long moment, before she looked into the camera and then to the side, as if looking at someone out of frame. Say goodnight to your brother. There was a long pause, before a small, almost amused voice followed. Good night, Tom, and the tape ended. When I left for university, I didn't realize how badly I slept at home until I was away from it. That realization and the denial stopped me from going back home to visit, even when my parents wanted me to. It wasn't long until the calls started. He's quieter since you left. He only plays in your room now, my mother would say, as if he was real. These calls disturbed me, but I didn't have the heart to cut her off just for grief. So for years, I let it continue. That is until one night she called me, panicked, telling me he cries constantly now, and asking me to please come home and play with him. I stopped answering her calls after that. I sit on the floor in front of the tape for a long while, taking it in, before I spot something out of the corner of my eye and glance up. Nothing's there besides a yellow envelope that sticks out like a sore thumb in the dreary room. I don't know how I didn't spot it before. We are nearing 10 minutes, so I'm gonna have to make a part 2 to this one.
I didn't think this story was gonna be as scary as it was, but it definitely is, so let me just start. So this guy says that when he was younger, one of his distant aunts passed away. He says that he really didn't know her, but he could tell the big impact that her death made on the family. Since they all traveled into the town that she passed away at, they sent him to go and spend the night with his cousins. He explains how they weren't gonna stay at the cousin's house, but at their cousin's grandmother's house. He had never met their grandmother until then, and he explains how she was really nice and even asked him to call her Mama Carmen. And no, it was not his grandmother. He was related to the uncle. The aunt was by law married, and his aunt, so it was the mom's mom, so not his grandmother, but his cousin's grandmother. I hope that makes sense. He explains that Mama Carmen's house was really big and it was made out of wood and it was so pretty, but he knew that there was just something off or weird about it. So when nighttime came, they directed him to this really big room in the house, and the older cousin said something to him that just like threw him off before walking out out of the bedroom, his cousin tells him, hey, whatever you do, just don't respond to them. And he was like, what? What do you mean? And the cousin tells him, just don't respond to the voices. Don't respond to the thing that's gonna talk to you from under the bed. Bitch, if you think I was about to stay there, I'm gonna go wherever you're going after that, cause what the hell? However, he knew his cousins and how much they play around, all the pranks they've done on him in the past. So he was just like, ugh, this is another prank, so whatever, yeah, I won't listen to the voices. He also admits that when his cousins would stay at his house, he would also scare them, so obviously he just thought this was a joke. So he ends up falling asleep and then wakes up to a voice calling him by his name. Felipe. He thought he was dreaming, but as he opened his eyes, he could have sworn that he heard that last little Felipe. Not me giving myself goosebumps right now. So he's laying there very still, awake, and hears nothing. And as he's drifting off to sleep again, he hears that voice again. Felipe. This time, he recognized the voice calling him by name. It had been a very long time since he had heard that voice. It was almost like he had forgotten what that voice sounded like, and it was because it was his mom's voice. His mother, who was no longer living. He immediately gets up and starts walking towards the door. He says he doesn't even want to look back. He doesn't even have the courage to look back and see what is underneath the bed, but he exits the room. However, when he finally makes it to the door where his cousins were sleeping, he said that he felt embarrassed. He thought to himself, if I go in there and tell them that I'm scared or tell them that I heard voices, they're never gonna let it go. I'm gonna have to hear this for the rest of my life, and he didn't want to deal with that. He said that it took him a minute to grow some courage, but he just turned around and went right back to the bedroom that he was sleeping in. He walks down the hallway, goes into the room, lays down, and he's laying there for a good minute. And finally, he is drifting off to sleep, and that is when he hears the voice again. Felipe, I forgive you. You have nothing to forgive me for, he said, half asleep, responding to the voice. You wish for me to die, but I forgive you. The voice responded. So this is where Felipe finally starts telling us a story about what happened with his mom back when she was alive. And he says that he has to confess something that he had never told anyone. His mom was really sick, so sick that she fell into like some sort of paralysis on her body. And he had to take care of the mom because the dad basically abandoned them when this happened because he couldn't deal with it. So can you imagine, like, the mom fell into paralysis, the dad left because he just couldn't deal with it, and he left his son to take care of a fully grown adult. He does say that the dad did continue to send them money to help out around the house, but he never showed up. He stopped playing outside with the neighborhood kids. He stopped doing his homework. He didn't go to school anymore. And all he did all day long, 24/7, was to take care of his mom. And he admits that at that time, he really hated his life and everybody who was in it. And yes, it's true. He really wished for his dad to die for doing this to him, but he also admits that he wished for his mom to die as well. He says that he doesn't wish her dead the same way he wished his dad dead. He wished her dead just so that she can get some peace, so that she wouldn't be in pain, and so that he can also just be a kid again. And he says that it was really hard to take care of her because she couldn't eat by herself, she couldn't shower by herself, she couldn't even go to the restroom. So it was things that he had to do for her, and it was a lot. But that desire for his mom to die was something that he never told anyone, not a single soul. And this is in fact the very first time that he's writing this down for this podcast to share with the world. So we go back to the voice telling him that she forgives him for wishing her dead. He is more asleep than awake when he asks for forgiveness to the voice that sounds like his mom. He admits that he doesn't know if it was really his mom or what was underneath that bed, but because of what the voice said, he wanted to ask for forgiveness, and he actually put his hand down underneath the bed. He didn't know what he expected. He didn't know if he expected somebody to grab his hand, for someone to say that he's forgiven, but he put his hand down there and actually fell asleep with his hand just hanging there. After falling asleep, he was awoken by a weird sound, and when he opened his eyes, it's when he felt a sensation of something touching his hand. He explains how the hand felt really rough, and it was definitely coming from underneath that bed. At first, he thought he was dreaming, but no, this was definitely not a dream. He was definitely awake. So by this point, the hand was already grabbing at his chest, and he was terrified. He said his heart was beating so fast. However, his curiosity won over the fear that he was feeling. So he literally moved to the edge of the bed and looked to see what was coming out from underneath the bed. What he saw was this very long, gray, old-looking hand coming from underneath that bed. It was fucked up. It was scary. As he was looking at the hand, he could see his hand next to that other hand, so he knew he was awake, but he couldn't take in what he was seeing. It was a lot and it was crazy. He said at that point his body became very cold. He was very stiff and he can still look at his hand and at the hand grabbing at it now, like they're trying to pull him down. And in that very moment, as he's being pulled down, the voice is saying, "I forgive you. I forgive you. I forgive you." Over and over again. It was at this moment that that voice completely changed. It didn't even sound like his mom's voice anymore, and it sounded like it was making fun of him. So now the voice was like mocking him, saying, "Do you forgive me? Do you forgive me?" Like over and over. He said that the way the voice changed was like it was using his mom's voice, and then all of a sudden it was just not his mom at all. So like it was trying to trick him. For some reason, this reminds me of Leprechaun. Have you guys seen it? Where like his voice changes. That was also the moment where he remembered what his cousin told him. If a voice is talking to you, do not respond. He wanted to take that advice, so he decided to stay quiet, but at that moment, it was too late. He had already talked back to the voice. Without knowing what to do, he said that he literally bit his mouth so that he wouldn't talk anymore, closed his eyes, and just stayed very still. He even tried to like let go of the hand that was holding him, but the more he tried to let go of the hand, the more the hand was trying to pull him underneath the bed. "Felipe, let me go. I'm getting scared. I can't do it. Felipe, let me go. Felipe, let me go." That's what the voice was telling him now. He finally understood that that was not his mom. That was not his mom's ghost. That was not his mom at all. It was actually the complete opposite of what his mom was. So he fought. He said that he fought for the longest time. He tried to hit. He tried to hold on to the bed. He was not about to let this thing drag him under. And he was successful because it finally like let go of his hand from all the fighting that he was doing. And when that happened, he immediately turned to like the side of the bed where the wall is, where that thing cannot reach him. He said that he sat there next to the wall on the bed, just like waiting for a hand to come up and try to get him again. And it was like the longest silence he had ever experienced. But that was also when the sun finally came out and he heard somebody in the kitchen. He literally jumped off the bed to the door into the kitchen, and it was Mama Carmen that was in there. He told Mama Carmen everything that had happened in the bedroom the entire night. He admits that she never interrupted him. She heard everything he had to say. When he finally finished telling her what happened, she just looked at him, smiled at him, and said, "You shouldn't give anything that much importance." That surely it was a hallucination or he was dreaming. That maybe it was because of him going to the cemetery and funerals because of that aunt that passed away that might have caused him to hallucinate or have these types of dreams. She also asked him not to pay attention or to listen to his cousins because they're little scaredy cats and they also love scaring people but were scared as well. She told Felipe that they used to sleep in that bedroom and then didn't want to sleep in that bedroom anymore, so maybe they made it up so that no one could sleep in there. Sorry, what? You're telling me that they've experienced this, but you're saying they made it up because what? She said that she believes that they made up this story so that they can move out of that bedroom and somebody else occupy the space that they were always scared to sleep in. He admits that he would have loved to believe her saying that they made this up, but how would they explain the voice? How could he explain the things that the voice was saying that only he knew? Now I'm curious as to what his cousins experienced in that room because it's obvious that they've experienced something. He was like, there's no way that they could have pranked me with my mom's voice and saying things that I had never told anybody. So yeah, she doesn't want me to be scared, but I believe my cousins and I believe they experienced something in there. He also says that he's never gonna forget what that hand looked like. Like that was not a dream. That was not something that he dreamt of. He was awake and he was there. But man, I would not know what to do if that happened to me. What do you guys think?
Can we show him the older homestead?
Yeah, let's go. As you know.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Was that you?
Yeah, that's on either side.
They went to both.
Yeah.
I got an email for tonight's True Scary Story about the Red Man. Now wait till you hear this freaking story. As always, you need to protect yourself before and after my videos. It's very important. Okay, let's get started. Night Submitter did not tell me whether I could use her real name or not, so we're gonna call her Jackie. Back in 2017, Jackie and her family moved into a house across from where they lived before. Her father had gone into remission by the time that they moved there. She was around 13 to 14 and her sister was around 11 to 12. They moved into a house across from 2 funeral homes, and her dad was then diagnosed again with, and they don't know if this house made it worse or not. So many things would happen in this house, like they would see random shadows and it would scare them and they would try to ignore it. And eventually Jackie saw this little boy, and this little boy would constantly be like peering around corners. Jackie also saw her late grandmother, which she had never seen before, and when she told her mother what she saw and what her grandmother looked like, she never saw it again. It was almost like the grandmother just wanted them to know that she was still there. But then the scariest thing happened: the Red Man. So in 2019, her father was in remission again and he was doing amazing. They were so happy. Well, they wanted to clean out the attic. So they went up to the attic and they broke the hatch to the door to the attic. And when they were up there, they found a bunch of newspapers that were dated back to the 1900s. They also found handwritten letters, and they don't know who they belonged to. They never found out, but it was still weird. Now, after her father broke the hatch to the attic, this is when her sister started experiencing sleep paralysis. She started seeing this red and black man. Now, his skin was incredibly smooth. He was just about average height. He had no hair on him whatsoever, and his skin was black and red. And every time that this would happen, she would see him trying to crawl on the walls out of the hatch. For some reason, his feet could not leave the hatch, but he would try to crawl out of the hatch and he would just stare down at her. Now, during this time, Jackie also started seeing something. She would be asleep in bed, she would wake up, and she would see this tall, skinny shadow figure in her doorway. Could only see it as a shadow, but it had reddish orange eyes. One night, Jackie is sleeping, and something starts happening to her. She starts kicking the bed. She's on the top bunk. They have bunk beds, so her sister's on the bottom bunk. She's kicking the bed as hard as she can, and her little sister wakes up. As soon as her little sister wakes up, her little sister sees this tall shadow figure man leaning over Jackie on top of the bunk bed. This thing was so tall, it couldn't even fit the door frame. So when it bent over to lean over her sister, the way that it looked was so terrifying. It was just skinny, lanky, tall. So half of its body looked super tall and the other half looked super tall, just leaning over like this. Unfortunately, at the end of 2019, her father passed away, and this is when things got truly terrifying. They would come home from school and the TV would be on. When they know that they left the TV off, they would be watching TV sometimes, and then all of a sudden music would turn on out of nowhere. Her father used to be downstairs watching TV, and then after he passed away, every single time they would walk to the bathroom, they would hear him coughing downstairs like he was still alive and sick. One night, Jackie's walking to her mother's room to ask her something, and she goes to open the door, and the doorknob twists and opens right in front of her. She did not touch it. Her washer and dryer was in the basement, and her sister said that one time she was down in the basement and she turns around and she sees her father walking up the stairs of the basement. When he got to the top of the stairs, all of a sudden he turns into this woman with long, dark black hair, a white nightgown on, and she's just floating on top of the steps. It went from their dad in a t-shirt and blue jeans to this woman in just a moment. They obviously didn't think this thing that was mimicking their father was actually their father at this point. So something was in their house mimicking the sickness of their father while he was alive. Now, a little bit after the incident where she saw her father turn into that woman, or her father turn into that woman, she was downstairs, she was doing the laundry, she grabbed the laundry basket, she brings it upstairs, she's walking upstairs, and she hears do 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 do, and something is running after her. She immediately drops the basket, turns around, there's nothing there. Their questions are, why do you guys think that this happened? What do you think that this was? Do you think it was because they lived between 2 funeral homes? Or do you think it was just because of the sickness of their father maybe lingering like a residual energy in their home? Or do you think it was something darker, like demonic or evil, something mimicking, like maybe a mimic, mimicking their father to bring them back into the pain that they were in when he was alive or when he had passed? They would love to know your thoughts, so if you could drop them in the comments, that would be amazing. And now on to my favorite part, the shout outs. My first shout out is going to Kobe. Kobe, you are great. You are always commenting, always supporting me, and you have no idea how much I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your support and your love. I love you for that. Just thank you. My second shout out is going to Spider, and you have a spider next to your name. You said that you love my videos, you watch them every single day, you've seen every single one, and now you wait for them every single day. Girl, that means so much to me. I truly, truly appreciate that more than you know. Thank you for supporting me. I love you for that, girl. Guys, I have been on the hunt for good dry shampoos, and I've now found 2 that are so good. You guys, look. Do you see my hair right now? It's so greasy, it's literally sticking in place right here, okay? By the way, this is Express Care. We're gonna do this side first. Look at how freaking soft. I take a hot tool to it after I use it. Look. Just like so freaking fluffy. Brush it out. Now watch. Look at that. That's so good. Ah, now I found 2. I'm so happy. I'm gonna drop the link for you guys below. It even looks so much better up in a ponytail now. Like, I'm obsessed. Okay, you guys, so my name is Kaisa. I tell true scary stories on here every single night. So if you like that, hit that follow button. And other than that, I just need you to do 3 things for me. And what are those? Keep sending me your scary stories. Have a safe night. And what's the 3rd one? Say it with me. Have a spooky night. Love you guys. See you in the next one.
What the fuck was that? Bro!
What's going on around you?
I don't know. I'm frozen. I am frozen.
Did the window
Sean.
break?
Want to hear something scary? Have you ever heard the creepypasta called "Every Evening Our Family Calmly Locks Our Grandpa in the Bedroom"? Me neither. Want to hear it? This story has trigger warnings for blood, gore, unalive, all of those things I censored, but it is in there, so fair warning. I never really thought much about the lock on Grandpa's door, or how his door was the only one with one. Grandpa had been living with us now for as long as I can remember, and as long as I can remember, every night after dinner, Grandpa would thank my mom for the meal, giving both my dad and mom a tired smile, before he rose from his chair, walking past me, and giving me a tender pat on the head, before moving down the hallway. Only when he got to the hallway did my dad also rise from his chair and follow. No matter what we ate, dinner would always end with the soft click of a lock and Dad walking away from Grandpa's bedroom door. When I was younger, I never questioned it, because it was just normal for me to eat dinner, say goodnight, and Grandpa is locked in his room. But the older I got, the more I started to realize this might not be so normal. I tried to rationalize it with the fact that he was getting old, and maybe they were worried he'd wander out and hurt himself. But that train of thought led to the worry of what if he needs our help and we can't get to him. The latter didn't really become a reality in my head until Grandpa's health seemed to decrease further. The slight clearing of his throat turning into a deeper, harder cough that sometimes left smears of red in the napkin he pressed to his lips. Only then did I start to realize this really didn't make sense. He was old, something could happen, and with the door locked, we wouldn't be able to get to him in time to help him. So that night, when the house went quiet and everyone was asleep, I crept from my room and into the dim hallway, spotting Grandpa's faded yellow door down the corridor. I stepped silently onto the carpet, not sure why, but knowing I'll be in trouble if my dad finds me trying to see Grandpa. I walk up to the door, pressing my hand gently against it, followed by my ear. I listen for a long moment, but hear nothing, and after about 5 minutes of this, I pull back, sighing faintly, but not satisfied. As well as being concerned for Grandpa's safety, I need to know why we lock that door every night after dinner. So, this kid, I understand his curiosity, obviously, but obviously something is going wrong too. I don't know. The next day, I acted as if everything is fine. I smile at my parents and thank my mom for breakfast as I watch my grandpa sit in his rocking chair reading a book with one hand and petting the cat with the other. Only when my mom goes out to run errands and my dad shuts the front door to mow the lawn do I move. My grandpa isn't paying attention anyway, so I walk past him and down the hallway, making a turn into my parents' bedroom. The sunlight filters through the windows, and I glance around trying to find something to help me. I kneel down, looking under the bed, behind the pillows, in the closet, and even behind the old clock, but I find nothing. Disappointed but determined, I turn back to the bedside table, opening up the cupboard and moving the remote and my dad's watch to the side. I'm about to shut it when the bottom of the cupboard rattles oddly. I pause before pressing harder, and the bottom falls back, revealing a small compartment with the skeleton key. I glance to the door before picking it up and stuffing it in my pocket. That night at dinner, we have spaghetti and meatballs, one of my grandpa's favorites, but he doesn't even touch his food. He sits staring distantly down at his plate before slowly looking up and smiling weakly at my parents. Thank you for taking such good care of me. he says, and my dad nods curtly, not meeting his eyes. But my mom places her hand over his, neither of them speaking. A few more moments of this pass before Grandpa pushes up slowly out of his chair and my dad follows. Grandpa pats me on the head with a light smile before turning and walking down the hallway to his bedroom, the lock softly clicking in place as my dad makes his way back. This is a fair warning. This is the part where it starts to go downhill, so. I wait about an hour after everyone goes to sleep, not wanting to go out there and be caught. But once the house is completely quiet, I sneak out of my bed and into the dim hallway, walking over to Grandpa's door. I reach up, carefully pushing the key into the slot and turning it. At first, there's a slight resistance, but then a soft click. My other hand comes up, and I push the door open enough to slip through before closing it behind me. Grandpa's room is dark, and I spot him sitting on his bed, propped up, and his eyes closed. I step forward. "Grandpa?" I ask quietly, and after a moment, his eyes start to open. When he spots me, he makes a soft sound of deep despair. "You shouldn't have come in here," he says brokenly, and as I go to ask what he means, a soft crack emanates from him, and he starts to lean back. At first, it looks like he's just stretching, but he keeps leaning back, further and further, until the points of his ribs show clearly under his shirt and his mouth opens, followed by another faint pop, and it falls open further than should be possible. His chest starts to convulse. At first, I think maybe he's having a seizure or something, so I go to step forward and help him, but then something starts to sprout from his mouth. Long red tendrils push past his teeth and over the sides of his lips, before snapping upright. I immediately am filled with terror, because this isn't a seizure. I have no idea what that is. I turn on my heel, lunging for the door handle, and right as my hand brushes it, I'm slammed down onto my face as I feel something cold grab my ankle in a bruising grip. Before I know what's happening, I'm being yanked back from the door. I scream, clawing at the ground, kicking as hard as I can. "I'm sorry," I hear my grandpa whisper, broken and gurgled, before his eyes fully roll back. As I'm pulled towards the bed, my hand grabs the leg of his desk, holding on tightly, before that too snaps, pulling me back further. As I'm pulled past my grandpa's bed, and starting to be yanked upwards, the only thing going through my mind in that moment is that I'm finished. And right as that truth is about to become a reality, the bedroom door slams open. The bedroom door slams open so hard it's almost thrown from its hinges, and my dad stands there, crowbar in hand, eyes wild and distraught, before he surges forward, raising the crowbar and bringing it down on the tendril wrapped around my ankle with a thundering crack. The tendril immediately pulls away, causing me to fall onto the hardwood floor with a thud, and I scramble away. Grandpa is shaking now, so badly I fear the bed might break under the strain. Another tendril shoots for me, and then another, and another, and another. My dad is hitting them, trying to make them stop, but it's no use. I cry out for him as he stops trying to hit them and looks down at me, something distant and pained in his eyes, before he slowly turns back to my grandpa. I am putting another warning, right here. If you don't want unalive, whatever, all of that, scroll away. His eyes are completely wide now, and he's bending so far back, his back is almost in half. My dad raises the crowbar over his head, and I close my eyes, as a wet crack sounds through the room, and the tendrils slowly pull away. When I open my eyes, my dad is covering Grandpa with a blanket, something red smeared over his face and hair in the dark moonlight. My mom is standing at the door now, unshed tears in her eyes. I watch her, expecting her to scream or cry or mourn her father, but all I see is fear. This unsettles me further, because what else is there to be afraid of? The next few hours are a blur, but as the sun comes up, before I know it, it's going down again, and I end up at the kitchen table with a cold cup of tea in front of me as I blankly stare into it. My mom sits down a plate of mashed potatoes and gravy, but it sits in front of me untouched. My dad sits across from me, his gaze also distant, and a few flecks of red still stuck in his hair he couldn't quite wash out. Dinner is silent, both my mom and dad eating without a word. They don't explain, but then again, I don't ask, not wanting to know the answer as to what just happened. As the sun sets over the horizon, my dad slowly stands, giving me a tired smile and tenderly patting my head. "I think I'll head to bed," he says, barely audible, and as he steps away from the table and heads into the hallway, my mom suddenly rises as well. I don't look at either of them as they stand, and I just choose to stare down at my food instead. The house is silent and unmoving, but that's when I hear the bedroom door shut with a soft thud. I finally decide to raise my fork to eat. But I pause when I hear the soft, echoing click of the bedroom lock.